The universe has a peculiar way of humbling arrogant species, and today, it had chosen the most spectacular method possible. Watching a 5'6" human male convince the galaxy's most feared apex predator to adopt him as family. I, senior xenobiologist Vera Nightfall, had witnessed enough impossible events in my career to fill several databases, but what happened in Containment Sector 9 made every previous scientific anomaly look like routine paperwork. The human responsible for this impending rewrite of predator psychology was named Sam Brightwater, another wonderfully optimistic human name that suggested his parents believed good intentions could overcome basic physics and biological reality. Sam possessed brown hair that seemed immune to gravitational forces, green eyes that held entirely too much curiosity for someone working with creatures that could atomize him, and the kind of cheerful determination that made seasoned researchers update their insurance policies. He was also, according to our comprehensive psychological evaluation, completely fearless in ways that bordered on clinical insanity. The creature at the center of this situation was designation Apex Alpha, though the research staff had privately nicknamed him Nightmare, for reasons that should be obvious to anyone with functioning survival instincts. Apex Alpha stood 12 feet tall, possessed enough muscle mass to relocate small buildings, and was covered in biometallic scales that could deflect plasma fire. His forearms each ended in retractable claws, capable of slicing through starship hulls, and his jaw structure suggested he could bite through reinforced titanium without significant effort. Oh, and he was the last known survivor of the Void Stalker species, whose homeworld had been consumed by a stellar collapse 3 months ago. Our facility, the Galactic Institute for Dangerous Species Preservation, had been tasked with keeping Apex Alpha alive long enough for xenobiologists to study his unique physiology before his species became extinct. This was proving significantly more challenging than anticipated, primarily because Apex Alpha had decided that existence without his pack was preferable to continued survival in alien captivity. For 73 days, he had refused all sustenance. For 73 days, our medical team had watched his vital signs slowly decline, while our behavioral specialists exhausted every known method of encouraging self-preservation instincts. For 73 days, the last Void Stalker had demonstrated that some beings would rather die with dignity than live in isolation. Which brings us to Sam Brightwater and his revolutionary theory that maybe, just maybe, treating a grieving apex predator like a sentient being instead of a research specimen might produce different results. Absolutely not, Director Magnus Ironhold had declared when Sam first proposed direct contact. Magnus was a Korthani male whose species had evolved from prey, animals, which explained his entirely reasonable terror of anything with more teeth than a herbivore. That creature is a walking extinction event. One moment of inattention and we'll be explaining to the Galactic Council why our facility's death toll suddenly increased. He's not a creature, Sam had replied with the kind of patient correction that suggested he had been having this conversation for weeks. He's a person. A person who has lost everything he's ever known and is surrounded by aliens who keep prodding him with instruments instead of acknowledging his grief. He's a Void Stalker, Magnus had protested, his voice climbing toward frequencies that indicated severe stress in his species. They're apex predators. They hunt in packs. They establish dominance through violence, and they view all other species as either prey or competition. According to our files, Sam had said, consulting his datapad with suspicious calm, Void Stalkers are also highly social beings who form complex family structures, participate in elaborate grief rituals, and have never attacked another species except in self-defense or territorial disputes. I had to admit, when Sam presented the facts without the usual xenobiological fear-mongering, Void Stalkers sounded less like monsters and more like, well, people. But facts were one thing, reality was another entirely. The first meeting between Sam and Apex Alpha had been scheduled for exactly 7 minutes, with full security backup, emergency medical teams, and enough firepower to level a small asteroid. Sam had requested removal of all weapons and monitoring equipment, arguing that Apex Alpha would sense the threat and react defensively. Director Magnus had compromised by allowing a single unarmed observation session with security teams positioned outside the containment area, close enough to respond to catastrophe, far enough to avoid triggering territorial instincts. I watched the entire encounter through our security feeds, fully expecting to document either the shortest interspecies contact on record or the most spectacular research facility disaster in galactic history. Sam entered Containment Sector 9 carrying nothing more threatening than a small bag, and wearing the kind of expression that suggested he was looking forward to meeting a new friend, rather than potentially becoming the lunch of a grieving apex predator. Apex Alpha was positioned in the far corner of his habitat, motionless except for the barely perceptible rise and fall of breathing. His biometallic scales had dulled from their natural silver to a gray that our medical scanners indicated was associated with severe depression and system shutdown in his species. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Sam stood near the entrance, apparently giving Apex Alpha time to notice his presence and make whatever decisions 12 feet of Apex Predator made about 5'6" humans. Then Sam did something that made every security officer in the facility reach for weapons that weren't there. He sat down on the floor, not at a safe distance, not behind any protective barriers. He sat down in the open center of the habitat and began unpacking his bag with the casual efficiency of someone preparing for a picnic. "Hello?" he said, his voice carrying clearly through the containment area. "My name is Sam. I brought lunch if you'd like to share it with me." Apex Alpha's head lifted slightly, 4 alien eyes focusing on this impossible human who had voluntarily made himself vulnerable to a creature that could kill him in approximately 12 different ways. "I know you probably can't understand me," Sam continued, arranging what appeared to be human food on the floor between them. "But I wanted to meet you properly. I've been reading about Void Stalkers, and your people sound remarkable. I'm sorry for your loss." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own cardiovascular system working overtime. Apex Alpha remained motionless, but his eyes tracked Sam's movements with the focused attention of someone trying to solve a puzzle. Sam took a bite of his food, chewed thoughtfully, and then did something that made me question his sanity for the 47th time since his arrival. He slid a portion of his meal toward Apex Alpha. "I'm told your species shares food as a sign of friendship," Sam said, apparently oblivious to the fact that he was attempting social bonding with a being whose grief had driven him to reject all sustenance for over 2 months. "I'd be honored to share mine with you." What happened next redefined my understanding of impossible. Apex Alpha rose to his full height, 12 feet of Apex Predator moving with fluid grace that spoke of deadly efficiency. His 4 arms extended, claws gleaming under artificial lighting, as he approached this insane human who had just offered to share lunch. Every alarm in my head was screaming that we were about to witness the facility's first research fatality, when Apex Alpha did something unprecedented. He knelt. Not in submission. Not in defeat. In the formal greeting posture that Void Stalker ethnographers had documented as their highest expression of respect between equals. Sam's response was immediate and perfect. Without hesitation, without fear, without any indication that he found this situation unusual, he returned the gesture with a respectful nod that somehow conveyed recognition and appreciation for the honor he was being shown. "Thank you," Sam said simply. "I'm pleased to meet you." Apex Alpha studied the offered food for several long moments, then reached out with one massive claw and delicately accepted a small portion. He consumed it slowly, deliberately, while never breaking eye contact with Sam. Then he made a sound that made every xenobiologist in the facility question their career choices. He spoke. Not in Void Stalker subsonic frequencies. Not in the clicking, grinding sounds our linguistic experts had identified as their standard communication method. He spoke in heavily accented but unmistakably clear galactic standard. "You honor me," he said, his voice carrying the weight of someone using unfamiliar words to express profound concepts. "I am Shadowhunt, last of the Pack Starfall." Sam's smile could have powered our entire facility. "I'm honored to meet you, Shadowhunt. I'm Sam Brightwater of the Pack Terra." "Pack Terra," Shadowhunt repeated, as if testing the words. "You are Alpha?" "Just Sam," he replied. "In my pack, we don't have alphas. We have family." Something shifted in Shadowhunt's posture. A subtle relaxation that suggested he had just heard something that resonated with concepts he understood. "Family," he said carefully. This word means pack bond without dominance hierarchy. It means people who care about each other, Sam explained. People who share resources, protect each other, and choose to stay together because they want to, not because they have to. Shadowhunt consumed another small portion of the shared food, his movements becoming less cautious and more conversational. Pack Starfall had family bond, he said, his pronunciation improving as he continued. All gone now. Star Death took Pack home, Pack kin, Pack future. The grief in his voice was unmistakable, and Sam responded with the same gentle compassion he might show to any being experiencing loss. I'm so sorry, he said, his words carrying genuine empathy. Losing family is the hardest thing anyone can experience. You must have loved them very much. Love, Shadowhunt repeated, testing another word. Yes. Pack love, family love, kin bond love, all gone with Star Death. Not gone, Sam corrected gently. Changed. The love you shared with them, that's still yours. They're not here. But what they meant to you, what they taught you, who you became because of them, that stays with you always. Shadowhunt was quiet for a long time, processing this concept while finishing the food Sam had shared. You speak truth words, he said finally. Pack love remains even when pack bodies are star-scattered. Always, Sam confirmed. And maybe, if you want, you don't have to be alone with that love. Maybe there's room in Pack Terra for one more family member. The silence that followed was pregnant with possibilities that had never existed before in the history of interspecies relations. Shadowhunt looked at Sam for a long time, his alien features cycling through expressions that our translation algorithms couldn't interpret, but which clearly indicated serious consideration of profound concepts. Pack Terra would welcome Void Stalker kin, he asked. Pack Terra would welcome you, Sam replied. Not as a Void Stalker, not as an apex predator, not as a research subject. As Shadowhunt as family. What Shadowhunt did next became the subject of xenobiological study for the next 50 years. He reached out with one massive claw and gently touched Sam's shoulder in what our databases would later identify as the Void Stalker gesture for formal adoption into family units. Sam kin of Pack Terra, he said, his voice carrying ceremonial weight. Shadowhunt accepts family bond. Pack alone becomes pack together. The security feeds went silent as every researcher in our facility tried to process what we had just witnessed. A grieving apex predator had not only accepted contact with an alien species, but had formally adopted a human into his family structure. But Sam wasn't finished revolutionizing our understanding of interspecies relations. He stood up, moved closer to Shadowhunt, and did something that made our medical teams call for emergency backup. He hugged him. A 12-foot apex predator carefully returned the embrace, his massive arms encircling Sam with the delicate precision of someone handling precious cargo. The sight of biometallic claws that could shred starship hulls gently patting a human's back made every xenobiologist in the facility question whether we had accidentally entered an alternate reality where physics worked backwards. Pack bond complete, Shadowhunt rumbled, his voice carrying satisfaction that resonated through the containment area. Sam kin is Shadowhunt kin, family together now. The communication system crackled as Director Magnus attempted to process what he was witnessing. This is impossible. Void Stalkers don't form cross-species bonds. Their pack structures are genetically exclusive to their own kind. Before I could respond, Shadowhunt's head swiveled toward the communication speakers with the kind of focused attention that made prey species reconsider their life choices. Small Fear voice speaks untruths, he said, his tone carrying the patient correction of someone addressing a confused child. Void Stalker pack bonds are spirit choice, not flesh mandate. Samkin has proper spirit scent for family acceptance. Spirit scent? I asked, activating the communication link despite my better judgment. All beings carry spirit marker in their presence field, Shadowhunt explained, settling back into his conversational position beside Sam. Most aliens have stranger scent, danger scent, fear scent. Sam kin carries family scent, pack protection scent, kin welcome scent. Sam looked genuinely curious about this revelation. You can detect emotional intentions through some kind of sensory capability? Void Stalkers read spirit energy like other species read visual markers, Shadowhunt confirmed. Pack survival depends on knowing who brings safety, who brings threat, who brings family possibility. And I register as family possibility? Sam asked. Shadowhunt's response was a sound that our translation systems couldn't interpret but which clearly conveyed amusement mixed with affection. Samkin registers as already family, he corrected. Pack Terra must be strong good pack to produce such proper spirit offspring. That's when the real crisis began, because Sam's success had attracted attention from sources far more dangerous than our research facility's administrative hierarchy. The priority transmission arrived exactly 6 hours after Sam and Shadowhunt's family bonding ceremony, carrying authentication codes from the Galactic Military Command's Apex Threat Division. General Krotek Bloodclaw, a draconian male whose reputation for brutality made hardened warriors request transfers to safer assignments like active war zones, appeared on our main communication screen, with the kind of expression that suggested our facility was about to become a smoking crater. "Director Ironhold," he growled, his voice carrying the warm empathy of grinding stone. "You will prepare the Void Stalker specimen for immediate military transfer. Our Weapons Development Division requires living tissue samples for Project Extinction Protocol." Director Magnus's face cycled through approximately 17 different colors before settling on a shade that indicated impending cardiovascular failure. "General, the specimen has just achieved stable psychological status through breakthrough therapeutic intervention. Moving him now could trigger fatal regression." "The specimen's psychological status is irrelevant," Krotek replied with the casual indifference of someone discussing inventory management. "Void Stalker biomodifications represent the ultimate weapons platform. We will reverse engineer their capabilities for military application." That's when Sam did something that redefined my understanding of human courage, stupidity, or both. He activated the communication system from inside Shadowhunt's containment area. "General Krotek," he said, his voice carrying the kind of polite firmness that preceded either diplomatic breakthroughs or spectacular disasters. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. Shadowhunt is under the protection of Pack Terra, and we don't surrender family members to weapons development programs." The silence that followed could have been measured in geological epochs. General Krotek's expression shifted from bureaucratic annoyance to the kind of focused rage that preceded orbital bombardments. "Who dares interfere with military command directives?" "Sam Brightwater," Sam replied cheerfully, apparently oblivious to the fact that he had just declared war on the galaxy's most powerful military organization. "And I should mention that threatening Shadowhunt constitutes an act of aggression against Earth's diplomatic protection protocols." "Earth?" Krotek's voice climbed toward frequencies that made our communication equipment emit warning sounds. "You're claiming diplomatic immunity for an apex predator based on informal adoption procedures?" "I'm claiming family rights for a person who has been formally recognized as Terran kin through legitimate cultural bonding practices," Sam corrected. "Check your interspecies law databases, General. Pack adoption creates legal citizenship status." The fact that Sam was absolutely correct about interspecies law made this situation infinitely more complicated and infinitely more dangerous. Shadowhunt rose to his full height, positioning himself beside Sam with protective instincts that needed no translation. "Military threat voice wishes to harm Samkin?" "The military wishes to harm you," Sam explained. "They want to study your biology to create weapons based on Void Stalker capabilities." Shadowhunt's biometallic scales shifted to colors that our threat assessment systems immediately classified as maximum danger levels. "Pack Terra protects Shadowhunt kin. Shadowhunt kin protects Pack Terra. Family bond means mutual defense obligation." General Krotek apparently decided that subtle intimidation wasn't producing desired results, because his next transmission included visual feeds from the military fleet currently surrounding our research station. "You have 12 hours to surrender the specimen," he announced. "Failure to comply will result in facility seizure under emergency military authority provisions." Sam studied the fleet deployment with the kind of calm analysis that suggested he had been expecting this development. "Shadowhunt, how do you feel about taking a trip?" "Samkin wishes to flee travel from Threat Pack?" "Samkin wishes to introduce you to Pack Terra," Sam replied. "Show you Earth, meet the family, maybe demonstrate to the galaxy that Void Stalkers and humans make better allies than enemies. Shadowhunt's response was immediate and enthusiastic. Family world visit, Pac Terra territory showing. Yes, Shadowhunt accepts travel invitation with great joy anticipation. Excellent, Sam said, activating his personal communication device with practiced efficiency. Transport request to Terra Defense Command. Priority family emergency, diplomatic immunity status, immediate extraction required. The response came within minutes, and it made General Krotek's military posturing look like amateur theatrics. Earth's diplomatic courier ship materialized through hyperspace with the kind of precision that spoke of technology so advanced it made conventional military hardware look like stone tools. The vessel was small, elegant, and carried sensor signatures that suggested its defensive capabilities exceeded most battlecruisers. Sam Brightwater, came the transmission from the courier ship. Terra Command has authenticated your family bonding documentation, preparing for emergency extraction of all Terran citizens and legally recognized kin. General Krotek's fleet attempted to intercept the courier ship and discovered why Earth had never lost a diplomatic mission in 3 centuries of interstellar relations. Their weapons simply couldn't target something that existed in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. Impossible! Krotek snarled as his targeting systems failed spectacularly. No single vessel could evade an entire military fleet. General, Sam said as he and Shadowhunt prepared for transport. You're about to learn why humans don't build the biggest ships in the galaxy. We build the smartest ones. The extraction process took exactly 47 seconds. One moment they were in our research facility, the next they were aboard a ship that promptly vanished into hyperspace with technology that made our best scientists weep with professional envy. But Sam's revolution was just beginning. 3 weeks later, I received an invitation that redefined my understanding of diplomatic impossibility. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session to address what they termed unprecedented interspecies bonding protocols with potential military implications. Sam and Shadowhunt appeared before the full Council assembly, representing not just their own interests, but a completely new category of citizenship that challenged fundamental assumptions about species boundaries and family structures. Honored Council members, Sam began, standing confidently beside his 12-foot apex predator family member. We're here to propose formal recognition of cross-species pack bonding as legitimate basis for citizenship and legal protection. The debate that followed lasted 6 days and reshaped interstellar law for the next century. Shadowhunt demonstrated that apex predators could choose cooperation over conquest, protection over predation, family bonds over territorial instincts. His testimony about Void Stalker culture revealed a sophisticated civilization that had been misunderstood and misrepresented by military intelligence agencies for decades. Sam proved that humans possessed something no other species had successfully replicated: the ability to form genuine family bonds with any being capable of reciprocal affection, regardless of biological compatibility or evolutionary background. The Council voted to establish the Universal Family Recognition Act, creating legal frameworks for cross-species adoption and citizenship that protected chosen families from military exploitation or forced separation. But the most significant outcome was personal rather than political. Shadowhunt thrived on Earth, becoming the first Void Stalker ambassador and helping establish communication protocols with other isolated apex predator species throughout the galaxy. His testimony led to the rescue of dozens of supposedly extinct species, and the creation of protected colony worlds where survivors could rebuild their civilizations. Sam founded the Interspecies Family Integration Program, which became the most successful diplomatic initiative in galactic history. Within 5 years, cross-species families were common throughout known space, breaking down barriers that had separated civilizations for millennia. The program's success rate was extraordinary because it was based on a simple principle that most species had forgotten. Treat others like family, and they might become family. I watched Sam and Shadowhunt address the Council one final time, 5 years after their first meeting, to present the results of their revolutionary approach to interspecies relations. The universe is full of pack bonds waiting to be formed, Shadowhunt testified, his galactic standard now flawless and his confidence absolute. Fear creates stranger enemies. Love creates family allies. Every being in the galaxy wants the same things, Sam added. Safety, acceptance, the chance to belong somewhere. Someone to care about and someone who cares about them. Species boundaries don't matter when you're talking about family. The transformation they had created went far beyond individual success stories. They had proven that the galaxy's greatest strength wasn't military might or technological advancement, but its capacity for connection, understanding, and chosen family bonds that transcended biological limitations. General Krotek, incidentally, was reassigned to administrative duties after his weapons development program was disbanded in favor of cooperative defense initiatives that utilized apex predator allies rather than exploiting them. The last Void Stalker had found a family among humans who welcomed him as kin. The small Terran had found a brother who would defend him against any threat in the universe. And the galaxy had learned that the most powerful force in existence wasn't the ability to destroy others, but the choice to build something better together. Sometimes the universe's greatest revolutions begin with one person refusing to accept that differences mean division, that strength requires cruelty, that survival means standing alone. Sometimes they begin with sharing lunch and offering to be family to someone who thought they were alone forever. In a cosmos full of apex predators, Sam Brightwater had proven that humans were the apex adopters, capable of turning any being into family through the simple act of caring enough to try. And Shadowhunt had taught the galaxy that even the most dangerous beings could choose to be guardians rather than conquerors, family rather than threats, love rather than fear. The laughter had stopped the moment a 12-foot apex predator knelt to welcome a small Terran as kin. What replaced it was something infinitely more powerful, the understanding that family was always a choice, and the best choices were the ones that made everyone stronger. But the universe, being the cosmic prankster it is, decided that one impossible success story wasn't enough. 6 months after the Universal Family Recognition Act passed, we received a transmission from the Shadowmere penal colony that made our previous situations look routine. Pack Brother Samkin, the message began. This is Razorclaw Darkhunter, pack cousin to Shadowhunt kin. We are 37 Void Stalker survivors, imprisoned as war criminals for defending pack territories from corporate raiders. We request... hope possibility? Sam's expression shifted to protective fury as he processed this information. 37 survivors. Shadowhunt, did you know? Others of your people were still alive. Shadowhunt's scales indicated profound emotional turmoil. Pack cousin Razorclaw was strongest warrior of Pack Nightfall. If he lives, if others live, then Shadowhunt not truly last of kind. They're imprisoned for defending their territory, Sam continued. That's not criminal behavior. That's survival. Director Magnus found his voice. Mr. Brightwater, Shadowmere houses the most dangerous criminals in known space. They're Void Stalkers defending their families from corporate invasion, Sam corrected. Mining corporations wanted their resources, so they classified territorial defense as unprovoked aggression. Then we fix it, Sam said with casual confidence. Pack Terra doesn't abandon family. What followed was the most audacious legal challenge in galactic history, combined with spectacular jailbreak planning. Sam's legal team revealed that 17 apex predator species were serving similar sentences for crimes that amounted to defending homes from corporate exploitation. This isn't just about Void Stalkers, Sam explained. This is systematic persecution of apex predator species who refuse to surrender territories to corporate interests. Legal channels would take years. The imprisoned Void Stalkers were dying in captivity. I'm going to Shadowmere Colony, Sam announced. That's suicide, Director Magnus protested. Not if I'm arriving as family, Sam replied. Prisoner visitation rights are guaranteed under galactic law. Sam's transmission to Shadowmere was bureaucratic genius, disguised as humanitarian concern. Warden Steelgrave, I am requesting immediate visitation rights to assess psychological welfare of 37 Void Stalker prisoners under the Universal Family Recognition Act. The response carried barely controlled fury. Visitation will be limited to secured communication facilities with no physical contact permitted. Understood. I'll be arriving tomorrow with my cultural liaison specialist. Shadowhunt became the first Void Stalker to legally enter maximum security prison as a visitor. Shadowmere Colony was massive, built into an asteroid, bristling with weapons systems. Warden Steelgrave met them with professional courtesy and barely contained hostility. Your liaison will remain in secure holding during prisoner interactions? Actually, Sam replied, cultural liaison specialists are required to be present. Galactic Prisoner Rights Convention, Section 12, Subsection 4. The visitation facility featured reinforced barriers and multiple weapon systems. 37 Void Stalkers entered with defeated postures, dull gray scales, empty eyes indicating psychological shutdown, until they saw Shadowhunt. The transformation was instantaneous. Scales blazed with hope, postures straightened, voices produced harmonic vocalizations indicating pack reunion. Pack brother Shadowhunt! Razorclaw pressed against the barrier. The stories speak truth. You survive free life? Pack cousin Razorclaw, pack brothers all, Shadowhunt replied emotionally. Shadowhunt has found family pack Terra. Samkin has brought hope possibility. Sam placed his hand against the barrier and spoke in carefully practiced Void Stalker ceremonial language. Pack cousins of pack brother Shadowhunt, Sam kin of pack Terra, offers family bond extension to imprisoned kin. Pack Terra claims legal protection rights for all Void Stalker family members. 37 imprisoned Void Stalkers accepted immediately and unanimously, creating legal obligations requiring re-evaluation of their prisoner status. You can't simply adopt prisoners and claim diplomatic immunity, Warden Steelgrave protested. I didn't adopt prisoners, Sam corrected. I adopted family members who happened to be illegally imprisoned. The bureaucratic nightmare lasted 6 months and resulted in complete overhaul of corporate accountability laws. The Void Stalkers were released, convictions overturned, and investigations revealed systematic persecution of dozens of apex predator species. Pack Terra grew to 40 members with extended family networks spanning multiple worlds. Former prisoners became ambassadors, educators, and guardians, proving apex predators could be society's greatest defenders. Sam established the Apex Predator Rehabilitation and Integration Foundation, the galaxy's most successful program for helping former prisoners transition to productive civilian lives through family bonds rather than bureaucratic processes. 2 years later, I attended the first Galactic Family Festival, celebrating thousands of cross-species families formed since the Act passed. Sam addressed beings from hundreds of species, many once considered too dangerous for civilized society, all now serving as proof that family bonds transcended any barrier. The galaxy told us apex predators were too dangerous to trust, he said, surrounded by 40 Void Stalker family members. What we discovered is that apex predators make the best family because they understand loyalty, protection, and never abandoning those who matter. Shadowhunt stepped beside his adopted brother. Pack Terra teaches galaxy truth. Strongest beings choose to lift others up rather than tear others down. Family bonds create strength no weapon can match. The festival became annual tradition, growing as more species discovered the universe's greatest treasures weren't resources or territories, but relationships that made everyone stronger. Sam had started with one impossible friendship and built a revolution changing galactic civilization's fundamental nature. He proved humans possess something unique, the ability to see family potential in anyone willing to reciprocate love and loyalty. The laughter had stopped when a 12-foot apex predator welcomed a small Terran as kin. What replaced it was understanding that family was always a choice, and the best choices made everyone stronger. And he had taught the galaxy that the most dangerous thing in the universe wasn't an apex predator with weapons. It was an apex predator with a family to protect.